Good morning. Joining us now, Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch, with us right here in studio. Tom, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you guys again.
Let's go back to last week when the news came out that Bruce Ohr had told Congress, members of Congress, that he told the higher-ups in the FBI and the DOJ the realities of the dossier, who funded it, where it came from, and that there were some doubts about the dossier.
That's exactly right. Well, Mary, there were two stories last week. One was this fake Buzzfeed news story that got a big play, but this Bruce Ohr story was the more important one, which, of course, the media happily ignored. And Ohr had not only warned top levels of the DOJ, but top levels of the FBI that, look, I got this dossier. It comes from a guy who wants to see Trump, desperate to see Trump not elected, and they're connected to the Clinton campaign. And by the way, you can't really trust it. So who else did he tell there? Andrew Weissman, who's now number two in the Mueller operation, the attack dog as he's known. Judicial Watch found he was sending emails supporting Sally Yates as she resisted Donald Trump, the Obama holdover in the beginning of the administration that she had to be fired over. So you have this anti-Trumper getting this information, another Mueller, soon-to-be Mueller deputy getting this information that the dossier was bunk, and yet they continued to use it. In fact, they went ahead several months later and used it to justify the FISA warrants on the Trump team, namely Carter Page.
Yeah, and that's it. That's
One,
the big
two, three,
thing.
4 times they used it.
So it's to me
never told the court the background as discussed by Bruce Ohr.
To me, there's nothing particularly terrible about the FBI being given a tip, even if it's not fully vetted. Then they can take time to vet it. That's sort of what the FBI does. They're the Bureau of Investigation. Here's the issue: presenting it to the FISA court when you know that much about it and you don't tell them any of it.
Specifically, because we did get the FISA court warrant documents, the applications. They said, well, we speculate it might be someone who doesn't want to see President Trump elected. Speculate. They were told it was the Clinton
You knew
campaign.
specifically.
They
yeah.
knew. They were lying to the court. And they couldn't corroborate it. To your point, Vince, they had months and months they couldn't corroborate it. James Comey famously testified it was minimally corroborated.
Right.
So two things out of what you just said. We had spoken earlier about how Bill Barr saying that he trusts Mueller. He believes in Mueller, yet, to your point, you've got Weissman sitting on his committee. You've got one of Hillary Clinton's lawyers sitting on Mueller's team. So how can you trust him when he's making those types of choices on his investigative team?
Exactly right. And special counsels are appointed, presumably, to ensure confidence in the fair administration of justice. And when you have biased people like Andrew Weissman, who's the number two, as I said, an anti-Trump activist who attended Hillary Clinton's election night party in New York City. I mean, how many top-level Justice Department officials go to the big campaign party for a presidential candidate? Andrew Weissman did. And then on top of this, you had Peter Strzok also involved in all this, who was an anti-Trumper. Lisa Page, also involved in all this, was an anti-Trumper. And, Mr. Mueller, to me, needs to be questioned about his administration, his administrative activities.
He does have his own administration.
Yeah, he's running the Justice Department in large measure here. No one questioned him in Congress about these hires that you're raising.
All right, so
point about, Mary. Why not? Why is Mueller above investigation himself?
So last week, I think people were pleased to see that Mueller finally came out and said, okay, this news story, fake. And he knocks down a Buzzfeed story. There was one problem with that, though. The fact that he actually took the positive step of saying that story is fake almost gave kind of a weird tacit approval to every other story that he's failed to come out and knock down in the last 2.5 years. Where has been Bob Mueller on all of the news stories that have been coming out that are about the granular details of his investigation? Is that suggestive of the fact that all of that was true? I mean, what should Mueller be doing when it comes to these press stories? What should be his standard operating procedure?
Well, frankly, he should be closing up shop. It's been 2 years. He either has the goods or he doesn't. And this is one of the problems with this special counsel operation that I think is unconstitutional, but it's also harassing and impairing the presidency of the United States. Because when you've got this overhanging him, how can he operate fully, and how can he do his job the way we want him to do his job?
It's a bit schizophrenic because, like, he actually released that statement it seems like, to relieve the president of the pressure that was created by a fake news story.
There
Well, if
was
that's
there
the
was a
case,
little mini political crisis about whether the president was going to be removed because he was implicated in obstruction of justice.
Exactly.
And I tell you, this tells you why we need to shut it down, because when you've got this investigation ongoing, the suggestion is the president did something wrong, and there's no evidence. And everything that we know about is that he was being victimized and illicitly targeted. And Mueller's benefiting, by the way, from this dossier. The fourth and final application was signed off by Rod Rosenstein in the middle of the Mueller appointment.